Your future isn't waiting for tomorrow. It's shaped by the decisions you make today. Procrastination doesn't just steal time. It silently robs you of possibilities, potential, and progress. Every time you delay, you're not just postponing a task, you're pushing your dreams one step further away. And deep inside, you already know what needs to be done. Yet, a powerful invisible force keeps pulling you back, into distraction, comfort, and endless postponement. This invisible battle isn't simply frustrating, it's life-altering. The real divide between those who succeed and those who remain average isn't intelligence, talent, or even skill, it's consistency. The capacity to act, especially when motivation disappears, separates those who build something meaningful from those who endlessly wait. Here's the harsh truth. Your brain is not wired to make you successful. It's designed for survival, for safety, for comfort. It prioritizes energy conservation, short-term ease, and familiar routines. That's why you keep delaying, not because you're weak or lazy, but because your brain instinctively avoids effort and discomfort. But, and this is critical, you can rewire it. You can override hesitation. You can silence doubt. You can train yourself to move quickly, to act decisively, to make momentum your default. This is not about vague inspiration or depending on fleeting willpower. It's about building an unbreakable operating system for yourself. This system will crush hesitation, eliminate distractions, and turn you into someone who thrives on execution rather than avoidance. Inside this method are battle-tested strategies backed by science. They aren't complicated, they're powerful. You'll learn to dismantle excuses, push through resistance, and condition your mind to embrace action. Not someday. Not tomorrow. But today. Because procrastination isn't a personality. It's a behavior. And behaviors can be broken, rewired, and replaced. Look around at the people who have achieved meaningful success. They aren't sitting around waiting for perfect conditions. They move forward while others hesitate. They take action when others seek comfort. They build their future one deliberate step at a time. Right now matters more than any imagined perfect moment in the future. Every choice you make today carries a consequence. You can stay locked in hesitation, or you can claim control over your actions. You can either drift endlessly, or you can begin to construct the life you're capable of living. The path forward starts with breaking your default programming. It starts with understanding the internal wiring of your brain. Your mind is designed for efficiency. It wants to conserve energy. That's why discomfort triggers avoidance. Your survival brain still operates on ancient programming where conserving energy meant survival. Long ago, expending unnecessary effort could cost you food, safety, or even your life. So your brain evolved to steer you toward rest, avoid unnecessary strain, and repeat predictable routines. But in the modern world, this ancient instinct traps you. It's why you delay projects, avoid challenges, and put off anything uncomfortable, even though those very actions would create progress. Think about all the moments you've delayed starting something meaningful, whether it's beginning a business, working out, writing that book, or learning a new skill. The moment you consider starting, your brain immediately generates dozens of reasons to delay. I'm tired. I should do this tomorrow. I don't feel ready. I should gather more information first. All of these thoughts feel real. But they're not reality. They're protection. They're excuses disguised as logic. Your brain is simply executing its old program, avoid discomfort. The problem is, every time you listen to these protective excuses, you reinforce the habit of hesitation. The more often you delay, the more natural that response becomes. Your brain learns that avoidance is safe. Avoidance is easy. Avoidance feels good. And before long, avoidance becomes your default operating system. Eventually, even simple tasks start to feel like massive obstacles. What could have been done in 30 minutes now feels impossible to even begin. The weight of inaction grows heavier with every passing moment. Every time you hesitate, you're teaching your brain that hesitation is correct. That waiting is safer than starting. But here's the breakthrough. Hesitation is not your identity. It's simply a habit, no different than biting your nails or tapping your foot. It's a behavior. And like any behavior, it can be unlearned. The most powerful mindset shift you can adopt is this: motivation does not precede action, action precedes motivation. Most people mistakenly believe they must feel motivated first before they can act. They wait for inspiration to strike, for energy to arrive, for the right moment to appear. But that moment rarely arrives. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for the wind to blow in the exact direction you want. It's unreliable, inconsistent, and mostly out of your control. Instead, you must flip the formula. You take action first, however small. And that action produces momentum. That momentum fuels motivation. That motivation fuels more action. The hardest part is always the beginning. The initial movement. The smallest step. When you take even the tiniest action, your brain shifts. A task that once felt overwhelming becomes achievable. Your mind engages. Resistance fades. Imagine a snowball rolling down a hill, small at first, slow at first. But with each rotation, it gathers speed. It gathers power. The more it rolls, the harder it becomes to stop. The same happens inside your brain. Once you act, even if only for 60 seconds, you generate momentum. The task no longer feels impossible. It becomes simply the next thing to do. The simplest, most effective way to override hesitation is this: act before your brain has time to resist. The moment you feel yourself hesitate, interrupt the delay with physical movement. Stand up. Open the document. Write one sentence. Put on your shoes. Dial the number. This short burst of action cuts through the mental debate. You bypass the internal negotiation process entirely. Breaking the task into something absurdly small is another tool you'll learn to master. If the task feels too big, shrink it. Make it so small that you cannot possibly say no. Need to exercise? Commit to 60 seconds of movement. Need to write? Commit to one sentence. Need to clean? Commit to picking up one item. Once you begin, you almost always continue. The first step dismantles resistance. It transitions your mind from avoidance to engagement. Your surroundings shape your behavior more than you realize. The environment you create will either support your focus or sabotage it. Distractions aren't neutral. They actively compete for your attention, draining your limited supply of mental energy. If your phone sits within arm's reach, you will check it. If the TV is on, you will glance at it. If snacks are sitting out, you will eat them. Your brain seeks the path of least resistance. It will always follow what's easiest and most immediately gratifying. So, redesign your environment to serve your goals. Make the right actions simple to start. Make the wrong actions difficult to access. This single shift eliminates countless moments of hesitation before they even happen. Put your phone in another room while working. Place your workout clothes where you can see them. Organize your workspace to eliminate clutter. Design every part of your environment to funnel you toward the actions that build your future. Because procrastination feeds on delay. The longer you wait, the heavier resistance becomes. The more you think, the more excuses you create. The fastest way to shut down doubt is to move before it takes root. The moment you act, fear diminishes. Resistance weakens. Your brain adapts to the new reality. You are in motion. Even though your brain defaults to laziness, it also craves progress. Completing a task, no matter how small, releases satisfaction. Each finished task produces confidence. Each completed action builds momentum. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself to suffer. It's about training your mind to enjoy effort. When you begin associating effort with growth, everything transforms. Action becomes rewarding instead of painful. You can actually condition your brain to crave challenge rather than fear it. Over time, the simple habit of taking small steps rewires your mind. You begin to see hard work not as something unpleasant, but as something that brings fulfillment. Your brain no longer demands comfort, it starts seeking growth. The biggest lies your mind tells you are subtle. You're not ready. You need more time. Tomorrow will be easier. These are the whispers of hesitation. But they're not facts. They're defense mechanisms. They're the result of an ancient system designed to protect you from perceived discomfort. The more you override these thoughts, the weaker they become. Eventually, hesitation dissolves, and decisive action becomes your default response. Laziness isn't who you are, it's a learned habit. And like all habits, it can be unlearned through consistent action. Your brain isn't fighting against you. It's simply running the code you've installed over time. Change the code, and you change your life. Now let's discuss one of the most powerful mental tools to beat hesitation, the 5-second rule. Hesitation lives in a tiny gap, the short moment between thinking about doing something and actually starting. That small pause determines everything. The moment you hesitate, your brain springs into action, generating doubts, fears, and excuses. If you don't act quickly, your mind will convince you to wait, and waiting often leads to endless delay. The solution? Eliminate the gap. The instant you feel yourself pause, start counting backward, 5-4-3-2-1. Move. Physically move the moment you hit 1. This interrupts the mental loop of excuses before it can fully form. Instead of giving your brain time to resist, you take control immediately. The 5-second countdown acts like a mental override switch. It shifts you from thought into action. The more you use it, the more automatic it becomes. Action comes before motivation. Not the other way around. Most people wait to feel ready before starting. But that's a myth. You'll rarely feel ready. The only way to feel ready is to act despite not feeling ready. The 5-second rule works because it makes action non-negotiable. You eliminate the internal debate entirely. There's no room for maybe later. There's only 5-4-3-2-1. Move. With each use, you're rewiring your brain to favor action. You're training yourself to stop waiting for inspiration and instead default to movement. Once you consistently act before hesitation takes hold, you weaken procrastination's grip entirely. Every single time you override hesitation, you gain confidence. Each victory builds the belief that you are someone who takes action. This belief compounds, creating a powerful identity shift. You begin to see yourself not as someone who struggles, but as someone who executes. That identity change drives everything forward. Your brain loves momentum. When you act, you generate momentum. The longer you act, the stronger momentum becomes. Hesitation weakens as action strengthens. Your job isn't to feel motivated, it's to act. The more you act, the less motivation even matters. Highly successful people are not people who always feel motivated. They are people who've trained themselves to act even when they don't feel like it. They've mastered the skill of immediate action. That skill is far more powerful than any amount of fleeting motivation. Remember, hesitation only lasts a few seconds. If you can beat hesitation inside that small window, you win. Every moment you feel hesitation creeping in, immediately count down 5-4-3-2-1. Move. Whether it's sending an email, making a phone call, getting up for a workout, or starting that difficult task, you move before your mind stalls you. That's how you beat procrastination. There will be many days when the idea of starting feels overwhelming. You stare at the task paralyzed. You tell yourself you'll begin shortly, but that shortly stretches into hours, days, or even weeks. And the longer you wait, the heavier the burden becomes. A simple task turns into a mountain in your mind. But it's not because you're incapable, it's because your brain is exaggerating the effort required. It transforms even a small task into an insurmountable obstacle. The actual work isn't the problem, it's the mental weight you've assigned to it. That mental weight grows heavier with every hour you delay. Yet, once you finally start, the mountain shrinks instantly. The task that once loomed large suddenly feels manageable. The pain wasn't in doing, it was in starting. The solution is simple: shrink the starting point. When you face a task that feels overwhelming, break it down to its smallest part. Instead of thinking, I have to write this entire report. Tell yourself, I will write one sentence. Instead of, I need to exercise for an hour. Say, I will do one push-up. Instead of, I have to clean the whole house. Commit to, I'll pick up one item. By shrinking the task, you eliminate the mind's excuses. Your brain can no longer argue that it's too hard to begin. And once you start, something remarkable happens. You often keep going. That one sentence turns into a paragraph. That single push-up becomes a short workout. That one cleaned item leads to tidying the entire room. The hardest part was never the task, it was taking the first step. Action creates momentum. It activates the part of your brain that craves engagement. Once you engage, momentum takes over. This is why waiting for motivation is a trap. Motivation isn't reliable. It fluctuates. If you depend on it, you'll remain inconsistent. Instead, build the habit of starting small. Allow action to generate motivation. The more you act, the more motivated you become. Another critical piece is eliminating negotiation with yourself. The moment you decide to do something, act. Don't debate. Don't negotiate. The longer you think about how hard something will be, the more likely you are to avoid it. Interrupt that cycle immediately by focusing on the smallest action you can take. There will always be days when you don't feel like it. Days when your energy is low, distractions pull at you, or self-doubt whispers in your ear. Waiting for the perfect mood is a fool's game. The key is to show up anyway, even if you only give 10% effort that day. Progress comes from consistency, not perfection. Your brain is wired to avoid discomfort and seek ease. But every time you act despite resistance, you teach your mind a new pattern. Over time, action becomes your default response. You stop seeing tasks as obstacles and start viewing them as opportunities to build strength. Overthinking is another common trap. The more you analyze, the harder it becomes to begin. Action breaks that loop. Instead of endlessly strategizing or worrying about every detail, simply move. You cannot think your way into progress. You can only act your way into it. Environment plays a huge role too. If distractions are nearby, your brain will reach for them. If your phone is next to you, you'll check it. If tempting foods are within reach, you'll eat them. Design your environment to remove temptation and make your desired action easy. Place your workout clothes where you'll see them. Keep your desk clear. Silence notifications. Make good choices automatic. Every day presents dozens of small decision points. Do you get out of bed or hit snooze? Do you begin your work or delay? Do you take action or create another excuse? These micro-decisions shape your habits, your results, and your entire life. Success isn't about grand moments of inspiration. It's built on small, consistent actions repeated daily. The greatest performers don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems that eliminate hesitation and make starting automatic. Once you start, resistance fades. The mental weight evaporates. The work transforms from something you dreaded into something you're engaged in. The secret lies in removing hesitation before it grows. Don't wait for the right feeling. Start with the smallest possible action. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Before long, you won't have to push yourself to act. It will simply be who you are. Training your brain to crave effort instead of avoiding it is one of the most powerful mental shifts you can make. The people who consistently get things done aren't superhuman. They've simply conditioned themselves to default to action. Resilience isn't the absence of struggle, it's the ability to keep going despite it. And that resilience is built through small daily actions that stack on top of each other over time. You won't always feel like starting, but you can always start. And once you start, the rest becomes easier. Most people fail not because they lack ambition but because they haven't learned how to make hard work feel rewarding. When effort feels like punishment, your brain instinctively resists it. If the process feels like suffering, you'll avoid it or approach it with dread. But what if you could train your brain to actually enjoy the challenge? That shift changes everything. Your brain is wired for pleasure. It naturally seeks activities that give instant gratification. Scrolling through social media, snacking, watching videos. These offer quick dopamine hits, which reward your brain immediately, making them addictive. Hard work, by contrast, often delays rewards. You don't feel the payoff until much later, so your brain doesn't automatically crave it. The key, then, is learning how to attach pleasure to the work itself. This requires a shift in mindset and strategy. If you can create small wins along the way, your brain starts releasing dopamine during the process, not just at the end. Each small win becomes its own reward, reinforcing the behavior and making you more eager to continue. Start by celebrating even the smallest victories. Finished writing a paragraph? That's a win. Completed 5 minutes of exercise? Another win. These micro-rewards retrain your brain to associate effort with satisfaction instead of pain. Identity also plays a huge role in how you approach hard work. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you'll naturally avoid challenges. But if you start to identify as someone who thrives in difficult situations, you'll seek them out. The more you act in alignment with your new identity, the stronger it becomes. Your actions reinforce your self-image, and your self-image drives your actions. Successful people don't force themselves to enjoy the process. They've trained their minds to find satisfaction in it. Writers who finish books love the act of writing. Athletes who compete at elite levels enjoy the training, not just the competition. They have learned to find fulfillment in the daily grind. Gamifying your progress is another way to trick your brain into enjoying effort. Set mini challenges, track your progress visually, and create small milestones that keep you engaged. Your brain loves competition and achievement. Use that to your advantage. But you can't enjoy the process if why? You're constantly exhausted. Energy fuels your ability to embrace effort. Prioritize sleep, nutrition, and physical movement. A well-rested and nourished body allows your mind to push through challenges without constant resistance. Your environment matters too. If you're surrounded by distractions, effort will always feel more difficult. Clean up your workspace. Eliminate unnecessary choices and temptations. Design your surroundings to support focus. The easier you make it to start, the more likely you are to keep going. Your social environment also influences your relationship with hard work. If you're surrounded by people who constantly complain or avoid effort, their mindset will seep into yours. But if you build relationships with people who embrace challenges, that energy will pull you forward. Surround yourself with those who normalize discipline. Ultimately, the secret isn't to force yourself to enjoy hard work. It's to rewire how your brain interprets effort itself. Effort becomes a reward when you attach meaning, growth, and accomplishment to the process. When you see every difficult task as a step forward, you stop resisting the work and start welcoming it. Progress becomes addictive when you create a feedback loop of effort and reward. The more you embrace this cycle, the more unstoppable you become. Your brain shifts from craving comfort to craving growth. Instead of seeing hard work as something to survive, you begin to see it as the gateway to everything you want. Your job isn't to eliminate discomfort but to learn to find satisfaction within it. That's where the real power lies. When you reprogram your brain to find pleasure in progress rather than pain in effort, hard work no longer feels like a burden. It feels like freedom. The most successful people in the world aren't the most disciplined. They've simply mastered this mental shift. Hard work is no longer something they have to force. It's who they are. It's what they do. This identity shift is the foundation of unstoppable momentum. Once you cross that threshold, you no longer need tricks or hacks to stay motivated. You simply show up because it's your default mode. The identity you hold shapes everything you do. Your actions flow naturally from who you believe you are. This is why people who struggle with procrastination continue to struggle. Deep down, they still believe they're procrastinators. And as long as that identity remains, their behavior will always reflect it. You don't overcome procrastination by forcing yourself to act differently for a few days. You overcome it by becoming someone who no longer procrastinates, by shifting your identity at its core. People often approach change backward. They focus solely on changing actions, setting goals, and creating plans. But if your self-image doesn't match those actions, you're constantly fighting yourself. There's friction between what you're doing and who you believe you are. True transformation happens when your identity and actions align. When you become the kind of person who naturally takes action without hesitation, you no longer need to motivate yourself every day. Action becomes effortless because it fits who you are. For example, a writer who sees themselves as a writer doesn't need to talk themselves into writing. They write because that's what writers do. A runner who identifies as a runner laces up their shoes without debate because it's part of who they are. They don't ask, "Do I feel like it today?" They simply act. This principle applies to every area of life. The key is to stop identifying with your old patterns. Stop telling yourself you're lazy, inconsistent, or undisciplined. Every time you repeat those stories, you reinforce them. Your brain collects evidence to support whatever identity you believe. Instead, begin to craft a new narrative. Start small. I am becoming someone who takes immediate action. I am building the habit of consistency. I am a person who follows through. These simple statements plant the seed for a new identity. The more you act in alignment with them, the stronger that identity becomes. Each small action is a vote for the person you're becoming. Write one page. You're a writer. Complete a workout. You're an athlete. Handle a task without delay. You're productive. You don't need some massive success to validate your identity. Every small action is evidence. It's important to understand that your environment also plays a huge role in shaping your identity. Surround yourself with people who normalize action, consistency, and discipline. Their behavior will influence yours, reinforcing your new identity. Your physical environment matters as well. Create spaces that support your desired identity. If you want to be focused, remove distractions from your workspace. If you want to exercise consistently, keep your gear visible and accessible. The easier you make it to act, the faster you reinforce your identity shift. Momentum is your most powerful tool during this transformation. Every small win builds energy for the next. Don't underestimate how quickly your identity can shift once you consistently act in alignment with who you want to become. Many people wait for big milestones before allowing themselves to feel like they've changed. But this is backward. You become the person you want to be through the act of doing. The identity shift happens not at the finish line but with each tiny step forward. You must also let go of the perfection trap. You will stumble. You will have off days. But one misstep doesn't erase your progress. What matters is your ability to return to action quickly. Consistency isn't about being flawless. It's about always coming back. The more you practice this, the more effortless action becomes. Over time, what once felt like a constant battle transforms into a natural part of your daily life. You'll stop debating whether to act because you've become someone who simply acts. At this stage, you no longer need to rely on motivation or willpower. Your identity carries you forward. This is the difference between people who struggle and those who succeed. The successful have trained themselves to embody the identity of action takers. When you fully embrace this shift, procrastination loses its power over you. Taking action becomes your default state. You no longer waste time negotiating with yourself. You move forward automatically, without friction. This isn't some magical transformation. It's the natural result of consistently reinforcing your identity through daily choices. Each time you show up, you're proving to your brain who you are becoming. And as those votes accumulate, your old patterns fall away. Eventually, you won't even recognize the person who used to hesitate, delay, and overthink. You'll have replaced that version of yourself with someone who acts decisively, consistently, and confidently. This identity shift is the ultimate solution to procrastination. It doesn't rely on motivation, willpower, or perfect conditions. It creates a permanent foundation that carries you forward in every area of life. Every morning begins with good intentions. You wake up, glance at your to-do list, and mentally prepare for a productive day. The plan seems clear. The motivation feels present. You expect today to be different. But as the hours pass, something shifts. Small distractions creep in. Checking your phone, answering a quick message, scrolling for just a few minutes. Those moments compound until, before you realize it, the day slips away. The list you had prepared remains untouched, and that sense of frustration starts to build again. It's not that you don't want to get things done. It's not that you lack ambition. What's missing is the system to sustain consistency even when motivation fades. The truth about motivation is simple: it's unreliable. One moment it surges. The next, it vanishes. Motivation is fleeting because it's tied to emotion, and emotions fluctuate constantly. Successful people don't rely on motivation to drive their productivity. They rely on structure, systems, and discipline. Consistency is not built on inspiration but on routine. You don't need to feel inspired every day. You need to show up anyway. And you need a process that makes it easier to show up, one that removes as many decision points as possible. Every decision requires mental energy. The more choices you have to make throughout the day, the more likely you are to fall into distraction. The most effective people automate consistency. They build simple, repeatable systems that guide their daily behavior. They design their day in a way where action becomes the default, not the exception. You don't need a complicated system to start. Simplicity is your greatest ally. Start with small, non-negotiable routines. Set a consistent wake-up time. Assign one core task that must be completed first. Block specific times for focused work. Remove unnecessary decisions by preparing the night before. The purpose is to eliminate friction. The less you have to think about what to do next, the easier it becomes to take action. Systems replace willpower. Habits replace motivation. Perfection is not the goal. Consistency is. People often fall into an all-or-nothing trap. They think if they can't do everything perfectly, it's better not to start at all. One missed day turns into 2, then a week, then complete abandonment. This is where most give up. But consistency isn't about never missing. It's about never quitting. One missed day doesn't matter as long as you return immediately. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be persistent. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle is not talent or intelligence. It's persistence. The ability to show up even when it's inconvenient or uninspiring. Consistency compounds. Each small step adds up. A single action may seem insignificant in isolation, but repeated daily it becomes the foundation for massive progress. This is the power of compound growth. Progress that seems invisible at first but accelerates over time. It's easy to underestimate small actions. Writing a paragraph, exercising for 10 minutes, or spending 15 minutes on a project may feel trivial. But these actions create momentum. They reinforce your identity as someone who takes action, and that identity fuels future behavior. Your environment plays a crucial role in this process. You cannot consistently win in an environment designed for distraction. If your phone sits next to you while you work, you will check it. If your workspace is cluttered, your attention will scatter. If social media is one click away, it will pull you in. Design your environment to remove temptation. Turn off notifications. Block distracting websites during work sessions. Create a clean, dedicated workspace. Set clear start and end times for your work blocks. By controlling your environment, you eliminate many of the triggers that fuel procrastination. Another key factor is reconnecting with your deeper purpose. Remind yourself why your work matters. When you lose sight of the bigger goal, it becomes easy to delay tasks because they feel meaningless. But when your actions serve a meaningful purpose, you're far more likely to follow through. Ask yourself daily, why is this important? What am I working toward? This clarity fuels discipline on the hard days, the days when you don't feel like doing anything. When the task feels mundane, your purpose anchors you. Progress doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires movement, however small, every day. One of the simplest ways to build momentum is to shrink the starting point. If a task feels overwhelming, break it down into something laughably small. Commit to writing one sentence. Do one push-up. Open the document. Once you start, you often continue. Starting creates momentum. The hardest part of any task is the first few minutes. Once you're in motion, your mind engages, and the task becomes easier. That's why successful people don't wait to feel ready. They start and let momentum do the rest. The longer you delay starting, the more overwhelming the task feels. The faster you take that first step, the less mental resistance you face. Ultimately, the secret to daily consistency is simple: show up. Not perfectly. Not massively. Just consistently. Even if your effort feels small, show up. Even if you feel tired, show up. Even if you're distracted, frustrated, or overwhelmed, show up. Consistency is not about intensity. It's about repetition. And repetition builds mastery. By designing simple systems, controlling your environment, reconnecting to your purpose, and focusing on small starts, you create a structure where success becomes automatic. You no longer rely on motivation to carry you. You rely on habit, on identity, on systems. And over time, that consistency will separate you from 99% of people who continue to rely on willpower and inspiration alone. Time is one of the most misunderstood resources we have. Every day you wake up with a limited supply. Once it's spent, it's gone forever. Yet most people treat time like it's infinite, allowing distractions, delays, and indecision to steal it away. The antidote to this trap is urgency. And one of the most powerful tools for creating urgency is the deadline. Deadlines transform vague intentions into immediate action. Without them, your mind drifts into someday thinking. I'll start tomorrow. I'll get to it next week. I'll finish it when I have more time. But someday rarely comes. Deadlines force you to make a decision. When you have a specific time constraint, procrastination has no place to hide. The task becomes real. It's no longer a distant idea, it's a commitment with consequences. This pressure, while uncomfortable, ignites focus, eliminates distractions, and compels you to act. Think of every time you've faced a non-negotiable deadline, a school project, a work assignment, an exam. The looming time limit triggered a shift. Suddenly, tasks you delayed for weeks got done within hours. You moved faster. You prioritized better. You stopped overthinking. This isn't because you magically became more motivated, it's because the clock forced you to focus. But you don't need someone else to set deadlines for you. The most successful people create self-imposed deadlines. They manufacture urgency where none exists because they understand one truth: without urgency, action dies. Self-created deadlines aren't about adding stress. They're about structure. They give your brain a finish line, something to work toward. Without a finish line, your mind will always choose comfort over progress. The secret is to break big goals into smaller, time-bound milestones. A massive project with a distant deadline feels overwhelming. But when you chop it into weekly or daily targets, each piece becomes manageable. Instead of, I need to finish this 100-page report, you commit to, I will write 5 pages by the end of today. Small, specific deadlines create frequent wins. Each completed deadline builds momentum and reinforces your identity as someone who takes action. The brain loves progress. Even small wins release dopamine, reinforcing the behavior. As you complete each mini deadline, your confidence grows, and you're more likely to keep moving forward. Another advantage of deadlines is that they eliminate perfectionism. When you have unlimited time, perfectionism thrives. You endlessly tweak, adjust, and overthink because there's no pressure to finish. But when a deadline approaches, you're forced to prioritize progress over perfection. You shift from, how can I make this perfect? To, how can I get this done? That simple shift leads to dramatically more output. The most dangerous form of procrastination is open-ended work. Tasks with no clear endpoint. This kind of work quietly consumes your time while giving you the illusion of productivity. You check emails. You tweak designs. You adjust plans. You research endlessly. But nothing gets completed. Deadlines destroy open-ended work. They demand closure. They force completion. Treat every important task like it has a deadline, even when no one is watching. Imagine you have an invisible client who expects delivery by a specific time. Act as if there are real consequences for not finishing. This mental trick locks you into serious action. The most elite performers in every field, business, sports, entertainment, live by self-imposed deadlines. They don't wait for external pressure. They create it themselves. They hold themselves accountable. When you adopt this mindset, procrastination becomes almost impossible. You stop negotiating with yourself because the clock leaves no room for negotiation. Deadlines are not just about speed, they're about clarity. When time is limited, you're forced to prioritize what truly matters. Distractions fade. Busy work disappears. You focus entirely on the critical actions that move you forward. Without time constraints, you can waste entire days perfecting tasks that don't matter. But under a deadline, you're forced to identify the few essential tasks that produce the biggest results. Deadlines also sharpen your decision-making. Indecision is a major cause of procrastination. You hesitate, question, and analyze endlessly, delaying progress. But a deadline removes that luxury. Decisions must be made quickly. Action must follow immediately. This habit of fast decision-making is a hallmark of high performers. They don't dwell on minor details. They move forward, adjust as needed, and trust that imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. The more you practice setting and respecting deadlines, the more natural this speed becomes. It rewires your brain for execution. When setting your own deadlines, remember, make them short enough to create urgency, but realistic enough to complete. Break large tasks into small, time-bound chunks. Write them down and commit to them as if they were externally imposed. Create accountability, even if only to yourself. If you struggle to enforce your own deadlines, introduce external pressure. Tell someone your goal and deadline. Make it public. The added accountability increases the stakes and reduces your chances of breaking the commitment. There's a reason high-stakes environments, like live performances, product launches, or athletic competitions, drive extreme focus. The non-negotiable deadline creates unmatched clarity and energy. You don't need a world stage to access this power. You can create it in your daily life. The next time you feel yourself drifting into procrastination, ask, "What deadline can I set for this right now?" And once that deadline exists, treat it as law. Not as a suggestion. Not as a wish. As an unbreakable contract with yourself. When you live by deadlines, even small, self-imposed ones, you eliminate one of procrastination's strongest allies, open-ended time. Urgency leads to action. Action leads to progress. Progress creates momentum. And momentum creates consistency. In the end, consistency is what separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck. When you commit to a goal, the biggest threat often isn't failure, it's the presence of a backup plan. The safety net of Plan B might feel smart, but in reality, it quietly erodes your determination. The existence of an escape option signals to your brain that success isn't mandatory, it's optional. And when success becomes optional, commitment weakens. This is the power of what some call burning the boats. You eliminate every path except forward. When there's no fallback, you have no choice but to succeed. That pressure forces creative thinking, fuels resilience, and activates levels of energy and focus you didn't know existed. Think about moments in your life when you had no choice but to push forward. When failure wasn't an option. You found a way, didn't you? You worked harder, stayed up longer, pushed through obstacles you normally would have surrendered to. That's what happens when the mind knows there's no easy exit. The illusion of Plan B is dangerous because it allows you to procrastinate. You tell yourself, if this doesn't work, I'll just switch paths. But that quiet permission is often the reason you never fully commit to Plan A in the first place. When you remove that mental escape route, your brain reorients entirely. It stops entertaining doubts and alternatives. It redirects every ounce of its energy into solving the problem in front of you. The question shifts from, what if this doesn't work? To, how will I make this work? This mindset is not reckless, it's powerful. It doesn't mean you don't adapt or adjust along the way. It means you stay fully committed to the outcome. You pivot tactics if necessary, but your goal remains non-negotiable. Many of the world's most successful people achieved extraordinary results not because they had superior intelligence or resources, but because they eliminated alternatives. They chose one path and refused to look for exits when the road got hard. This applies to your daily habits too. You might say, if I don't exercise today, I'll do double tomorrow. But that's Plan B thinking. It lowers your standard. Instead, adopt the mindset, I train today. Period. There is no tomorrow. There's only today. When you adopt this all-in mentality, something profound happens. Excuses evaporate. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop allowing minor discomforts or distractions to derail you. You simply execute. The truth is, most people fail not because their goals were impossible but because they allowed too many exceptions. They permitted themselves to skip days, delay decisions, or entertain alternatives that gradually diluted their commitment. By eliminating Plan B, you simplify your decision-making. There's no debate. No negotiation. No evaluation of how you feel. You execute because there's no other path. This radical clarity creates a type of internal freedom. You no longer waste energy second-guessing or analyzing alternatives. All your mental bandwidth is directed toward taking action. You may have heard the phrase, when you're committed, the universe conspires to help you. That's not mystical, it's psychological. When your mind is fully locked onto a goal, it starts noticing opportunities, resources, and solutions it previously overlooked. Total commitment amplifies your resourcefulness. You problem solve faster. You take risks you would have avoided. You stay persistent through challenges that would have crushed you with a weaker commitment. The elimination of Plan B also has a massive effect on confidence. Every time you show up without excuses, your self-trust deepens. You prove to yourself that you are someone who follows through, no matter how difficult the path becomes. Confidence isn't built by thinking positively. It's built by repeatedly seeing yourself act in alignment with your commitments. Of course, this doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you focus on what you can control. Your effort, your consistency, your adaptability. If an obstacle appears, you solve it, not by retreating to Plan B, but by finding new ways to keep Plan A alive. Your brain performs differently under real pressure. When quitting is not an option, you become far more creative, far more disciplined, and far more resilient than you ever thought possible. This is why most people never achieve their true potential. They keep one foot in safety and one foot in ambition. But divided focus produces weak results. If you truly want extraordinary progress, commit fully. Close the door on escape routes. Declare to yourself, I will figure it out. No matter what. You'll be surprised how resourceful, disciplined, and relentless you can become when there is no alternative. In practical terms, you can apply this today. If you decide to start a project, set an unbreakable deadline. If you commit to a fitness routine, never allow the excuse, I'll start tomorrow. If you decide to build a skill, commit to daily practice, without fail. If you start a business, burn the mental bridge that says, I'll go back to my job if this doesn't work. Total commitment simplifies your life. It removes decision fatigue, eliminates hesitation, and puts you in a permanent state of execution. When you allow Plan B to exist, you're telling yourself, I don't fully believe I can do this. When you eliminate Plan B, you say, this will work because I will make it work. That level of certainty produces unstoppable momentum. And that momentum, more than talent, luck, or resources, is what creates extraordinary results. The modern world is engineered to steal your focus. Distractions come from every direction. Your phone buzzes, social media apps ping, emails pour in, and your mind is constantly pulled in dozens of directions. You may start the day with good intentions, but within minutes, you've lost control of your attention. And once your attention fragments, so does your productivity. The people who get things done at a high level aren't superhuman. They simply master one skill most others ignore: controlling their environment before distractions take hold. They don't wait for willpower to rescue them. They eliminate distractions before they have the chance to strike. Distraction is rarely about discipline. It's about proximity. What's near you influences you. If your phone is on the table, you will check it. If your notifications are on, you will respond. If your workspace is cluttered, your brain will wander. The closer the temptation, the greater its pull. That's why you must design your workspace with ruthless intentionality. Build an environment where the path of least resistance leads to focus. Make distractions hard to access, and make your most important tasks easy to start. Simple changes like putting your phone in another room, closing all browser tabs unrelated to your current work, and using noise-canceling headphones can immediately shift your level of focus. But this isn't just about technology. It's also about mastering your internal distractions. Your own thoughts often sabotage your focus even more than external interruptions. You might sit down to work and suddenly your mind drifts. I should check my messages. I forgot to respond to that email. I wonder what's happening on the news. Left unchecked, this internal noise pulls you away from deep work. The solution? You train yourself to respond instantly the moment you catch your mind drifting. No negotiation, no delay. You snap your attention back to the task at hand, every single time. The rule is simple: act within 30 seconds of recognizing distraction. If you feel the urge to check your phone, put it away before your brain starts negotiating. If you catch your mind wandering, immediately return to the task. Don't allow the thought to gain momentum. The faster you respond, the easier it becomes to maintain focus. This practice is like building a muscle. At first, your mind will resist, and distractions will win. But the more you practice rapid recovery, the stronger your focus grows. Eventually, your brain adapts. It learns that distraction equals immediate redirection, and over time, distraction loses its power. You can't control every distraction that appears, but you can always control how quickly you respond to it. That 30-second window is where focus is won or lost. Now take it even deeper. Prevent distractions from arising in the first place by controlling what enters your world. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Block distracting websites during work hours. Limit your social media usage to specific times. Let others know when you are unavailable. Schedule your deep work during your peak energy hours. Remove visual clutter from your workspace. Use physical triggers like a clean desk or a to-do list to signal your brain that it's time for focus. Distraction thrives on randomness. Eliminate randomness and you eliminate most of your distraction. Another powerful tool is time blocking. This means scheduling your work in focus sprints, where you commit to complete immersion on one task for a fixed period of time, 25 minutes, 50 minutes, or even 90 minutes depending on your capacity. During that sprint, your only job is to work. No multitasking. No notifications. No email. Total single-task focus. After each sprint, you allow yourself a short break to recharge. This simple technique not only boosts productivity, it also retrains your brain to value focused work over fragmented attention. The real secret behind mastering distraction isn't self-control, it's preparation. People who consistently stay focused don't have more willpower. They simply design their environment so that focus is the default state. Understand, your brain will always take the path of least resistance. Make focus easier than distraction, and focus wins. You must also eliminate hidden distractions, the mental clutter of unfinished tasks that linger in your subconscious and pull at your attention. You know the feeling. You sit down to work, but your mind nags you about bills to pay, emails to reply to, errands to run, or other tasks left open. This mental drag slows you down. The solution is a simple practice called mind dumping. Before beginning focused work, take 5 minutes to list out everything that's on your mind. Tasks, worries, errands, random thoughts. Get it all out of your head and onto paper. By doing this, you clear your working memory, allowing your full cognitive power to focus on the task in front of you. You no longer have mental tabs open, pulling your attention in multiple directions. Over time, you'll discover that focus is not something you summon, it's something you engineer. The fewer open loops you carry, the more mental clarity you gain. There's also one hidden distraction most people never recognize: indecision. The time you waste debating which task to start, which priority to choose, or how to approach a problem drains your focus before you even begin. To defeat indecision, create a daily plan before your work session begins. Define exactly which task you will start with and when. Your brain loves clear direction. When you sit down to work and already know what to do, hesitation vanishes. Remember, the most productive people aren't making hundreds of micro decisions throughout the day. They make key decisions up front and then simply execute. Your future depends on your ability to protect your focus. We live in an economy where attention is the most valuable currency. Those who control their attention control their success. You don't need more hours in the day. You need fewer distractions. You need to reclaim control over your attention. Because in the end, it's not just your work that suffers when you allow distractions to dominate, it's your life. The most meaningful progress comes from uninterrupted, focused effort, repeated daily. And every time you choose focus over distraction, you're not just getting work done. You're building a brain that's capable of producing extraordinary results. Every day ends the same way for most people: exhausted, scattered, frustrated that another day slipped by without real progress. The tasks pile up, the to-do list never shrinks, and even after hours of busyness, you feel like you didn't actually move forward. This isn't because you didn't work hard, it's because you didn't review what mattered. High performers understand something most people ignore: reflection is as important as action. The final secret of those who always get things done is simple. They don't just grind endlessly, they pause, review, and recalibrate daily. They run a short, powerful process that keeps them aligned, focused, and improving: a 5-minute end-of-day review. This habit creates a feedback loop that most people never access. It prevents the slow drift that steals months or years from your life without you realizing it. Reflection transforms scattered effort into laser-focused, intentional action. Here's how it works. At the end of each day, before you close your laptop, before you relax into the evening, you run 3 simple questions through your mind. What did I actually accomplish today? Where did I get stuck or waste time? What are my top priorities for tomorrow? That's it. No journaling marathons. No long therapy sessions. Just 5 minutes of brutal honesty. When you force yourself to answer these questions daily, you begin to see your patterns emerge. You identify exactly where you're leaking time. You spot the tasks you keep postponing. You notice where procrastination keeps slipping back in. Most importantly, you catch problems while they're still small. Small course corrections made daily prevent major breakdowns later. You stop allowing distractions to grow into habits. You catch inefficiencies while they're still tiny adjustments. You address obstacles before they become crises. This daily review gives you clarity. It eliminates the ambiguity that fuels overwhelm. It builds confidence because you always know exactly where you stand. Every morning starts with clear priorities, because you already decided what matters the night before. Without this review, your mind remains cluttered. You carry unfinished tasks to bed. You wake up stressed, already behind. Each day bleeds into the next without a sense of progress. You're busy, but you're not advancing. The best performers never allow that drift to take root. They reset every single day. This tiny ritual also builds emotional resilience. Most people carry guilt and frustration from what they didn't do. But when you review your day objectively, you shift from emotion to data. You stop beating yourself up for what didn't happen. Instead, you make a simple plan to handle it tomorrow. You release the weight of unfinished tasks and give your brain permission to rest. That mental closure improves your sleep, sharpens your focus, and lowers your anxiety. And here's the real power of this habit. 5 minutes per day compounds into a completely different life. After 30 days, you'll feel dramatically more in control of your time. After 90 days, you'll see measurable results in your projects and goals. After 1 year, you'll operate at a level of focus and execution most people never reach. Because reflection creates mastery. It's not just about getting more done, it's about doing the right things, in the right order, at the right time. That precision comes only through review. Without it, you remain reactive, endlessly busy but aimless. The people who achieve extraordinary results aren't busier than everyone else. They simply waste far less time. They course-correct faster. They act with confidence because they've eliminated guesswork. That advantage is built during those 5 minutes at the end of the day. If you adopt this practice, understand one thing: consistency matters more than perfection. You won't always feel like doing it. Some nights you'll be tired, or tempted to skip it. That's where discipline matters. Commit to never missing 2 nights in a row. Build the streak. Let the ritual become automatic. The compound effect of small daily reflection reshapes your entire operating system. You stop living on autopilot. You stop repeating mistakes. You stop chasing productivity hacks. Instead, you start directing your life with clarity, precision, and ruthless simplicity. You wake up knowing exactly what matters. You work without wasting energy on indecision. You go to bed satisfied, knowing you made real progress. And over time, you build a level of momentum that feels unstoppable. The truth is, you don't need more time. You need more clarity. The 5-minute end-of-day review gives you both. Because success isn't built in giant leaps. It's built in small, consistent, focused adjustments made daily. And that's how you finally break free from procrastination forever.